All right, welcome back to our third installment of Comexposed Emerge 2020. This is our third presentation of the day, and I'm really excited about this one. Today, I am joined by Terence Mugoa, who is a man who goes by many titles, my favorite of which is the Son of Encouragement. We'll get into that. But welcome, Terence. It's awesome to have you.
No, it's awesome to be here and really appreciate the time you guys are giving me to be part of this amazing adventure or remarkable adventure you guys are on.
Thank you so much. I mean, there's so much growth and so much that has happened, and we've got many different people that are subscribing to our platform, and a lot of them are wondering how to make the business of creating creative content and media, how it all works, how to get the business side up and running. And that's where you come in. So without any further ado, maybe you can introduce yourself and let us know just briefly who you are, where you're coming from, and what you're bringing to the table just before we head into your presentation.
All right, thanks a lot, Eugene. And oh man, introducing myself, that's like a hard thing to do. So what I'm gonna do is, I've been blessed to be invited to a couple of countries. And I remember my last outing was in the States. And I remember sitting there and they said, all of us need to introduce ourselves. And I was like, man, I come from Zimbabwe. Like, it's sometimes hard to sell us, right? We've got a lot of things that, so I was like, man, I'm not going to be those Zimbabweans who go and just, don't represent the clan the way it should be. So I introduced myself the way I used to introduce myself at every single presentation. It didn't matter if we were meeting a CEO, if we were meeting someone from the Department of State, this is how I introduced myself. So I am the son of the soil from the city of kings and queens. I am from the tribe of reformers. My name is Terence Mugoa. I am from Blawayo. All right, so that's how we used to do it back then. I think I've got a bit. But yeah, that's me. And really, what you need to know is I am someone who has failed a lot. And in my failure, I've learned a lot as well. And, I've become an entrepreneur out of necessity most of the time, and out of a belief that things could be better and things need to be made better. And you get tired of waiting for the world to fix it, right? So if you were like me or going through this and go through life and think that life owes you something, if what you're hoping for isn't happening, that's life telling you it disagrees. You need to get out and do something. So my time with you is really to share from my experiences as a person who started a business and who's still in business, but more importantly, as someone who supports and has a heart for people who want to succeed and maximize their potential. And this has really been my experience hosting pitch nights and being an attendee and a host of pitch nights over the last couple of years. We've been running pitch nights in Blawayo from 2016, so creating a platform for entrepreneurs to share their ideas and hopefully meet up with other like-minded people who can support the work they're doing. So it's just learning from their experiences, their mistakes, my mistakes, and the numerous conversations I've had with CEOs all around the world. So a lot of my presentation will speak from lessons I learned from actually sitting down with owners of unicorns, guys who've built amazing businesses and done it numerous times, so serial entrepreneurs. So that's me coming with that body of experience and just the skills that I've learned as well. So if you're fortunate to find my profile, you'll find that I hold a master's in financial markets and a bachelor in business science. So that's financial modeling, that is understanding how financial markets work. So I am not an accountant. Don't ever call me an accountant. But I am someone who understands how to tell the story of business with numbers. And I hope I can share with you and get people in the creative space thinking in that way. So I admire people in the creative space, and I believe that they are stereotyped and they're looked on in a particular way, right? And a simple stereotype is, look at how my hair is now. When people meet, don't even ask for my name, they're like, yeah, Rasta. And they don't even give you, they don't see the need to ask for your name. So if you are clean cut like Ramirez, they're gonna ask you, yo, what's your name, right? Because you command a certain respect. So I feel like
I get that a lot.
You're stereotyped a lot, but I believe that there's tremendous value in you because the future that's out there is creative, right? So it's storytelling. It is how can you bring out the vision, the vision someone has. Can you create something that embodies it and tells that story? So I want to help as many as I can with the experience I have to move from telling stories and being able to share this beautiful story, to transcend that to numbers and business, and how you can create shared value that allows you to move from feeling like we are the oppressed ones, the industry is always overlooking us, we are underpaid, to move beyond your excuses. Your excuses are legit, right? They are 100% legit. There are real challenges that you face in the creative space, but all of us face challenges. The people who succeed are those who move beyond those challenges. So I hope during this time we're going to do that as well, sort of figure out how we can bend the curve and find new ways to succeed as a people.
That's a powerful introduction. That's a way to get us going. I'm super excited already. So you're gonna give us a presentation today. What's it gonna be about?
All right. So great, man. So what I've prepared on, I know one of the things people want to find out is what are the education funding opportunities out there, because one of the businesses we run is really about improving access to education. And I think the other one was, some of this, just to speak on how to turn the creative side of your work into a business. So I'm going to leave the interview bits to the opportunities that are educational opportunities are there for that, because I think all of us really want to, a lot of the guys already have gotten into some sort of business, are thinking to get into some sort of business, because if you're a creative, you are the business, right? Like, you can go to school, yes, but if the talent is in you to create stuff, it's in you, right? And there's this amazing opportunity. You like, look at YouTube. We've got so many more platforms now where you don't have to be a journalist to publish material. You don't have to have these fancy studio equipment or a studio supporting you to produce. So I wanted to talk to guys around, the journey of entrepreneurship, and sort of try and draw parallels that all of us, even the people in the creative industry, can learn from. So yeah, hopefully that will help some of us. Right? Okay, so one of the things I talk a lot. So what I've done is I've prepared a presentation to pace me so that we stay on time, and yeah, it sort of works for everyone. So I hope that's, if you hate PowerPoint presentations, I'm sorry, man. I'm old as well, so that's how that's how my generation rolls, man. PowerPoints. Okay,
Take it away, bro. Take it away.
So that's a little bit about educate. Okay, we exist. Move on to the next one. So you're creative, right? So I'm speaking to a creative community. So you're creative and you have an idea. So I've got some news about that for you. Is all of us, everyone has ideas. The idea part is the easy part. So when you sit back and say, look, I thought about something, look, that's the easy part. That's the enjoyable part. That's the sexy bit, right? The idea part. What I want to tell you, and what I hope I can share and not discourage you, is to turn that idea into something successful, into a successful business, successful product, successful service. That is exceptionally difficult. Success requires amazing focus, guys. It also requires money. You can't do it without money. At some point in time, you're gonna need to pay for something. And it's going to require dedication. So if you're only in it for the money, so this is my warning. If you're only in it for the money, if the only reason you are calling yourself a creative and want to venture into business, if your only reason is I want to make money, stop right there, go and look for a job. Entrepreneurship is exceptionally difficult. It sometimes even requires a bit of luck to get there, right? The number of years, if you look at some of the most successful people or the average millionaire, they'll tell you it took them in excess of 10 years to get to that millionaire point, 14 for being the average, right? And they'll have failed numerous times during that time. They'll have pivoted. We now call failing pivoting, right? So you do something, it doesn't work, you change and do something else. They do it numerous times. So understand the idea is the easy part. Getting it successful is the exceptionally difficult part. I like what this comic put down, and it's like, I think he's the guy who does Dilbert, the cartoonist, and he says good ideas have no value because the world already has too many of them. All of us have ideas, right? You go to any place, people are sharing ideas. The market rewards execution, not ideas. So the difference between me and you, or success and failure, is not the ideas, but whether I'm executing the idea. The people who are wealthy today, the people who you admire, it's because they had the same idea you had, but they executed. All right? They did what was needed. They understood that, and execution comes at a price. So I want to share with you guys a few hard truths about the entrepreneurship game, because I feel as if sometimes, people tell this glorious story of, I sold 10 tomatoes and the next thing, bam, I'm a millionaire. Look, they are the exceptions, but I think for the rest of us, it is a hard journey. And I tell you, you have to be crazy to want to be an entrepreneur. Or to start a business, or to think that, your paint work is going to do well, or to think that you can build a comic industry in Zimbabwe. These guys are crazy. These guys, if entrepreneurs went to a psychologist, I think we would probably all be on medication, because it requires a little bit of crazy, right? A little bit of crazy to think that we can change industries, we can change the way people think, we can tell stories in a different way, introduce people to a better way of doing things. It requires a level of craziness, because the truth is there's stuff that's there already. There are people already in the market. And whenever you come, you are disturbing an establishment. And the only way you disturb an establishment is if you do it exceptionally well. So I want to let you know that the risk of failure is very high. You're more likely to fail a couple of times before you succeed, right? So get ready, brace yourself, and redefine what failure means to you. Look at it as the price you must pay to succeed, all right? So like I said, if you're in it for the money, go and look for a job, right? And I want us all to understand is that every company, every single company the companies people love to talk about, the Facebook, those companies at some point in time will fail, right? They are not going to be there forever. And if it seems like they're not failing, it's they're pivoting. Something within their business dies, right? We've gone through it where we introduce products, the product doesn't work, we kill it. It's failed. A part of that business has failed. So the pivoting is because you are constantly realizing that you must change. You must see the future for where it's going, not what it is right now. All right. The second thing is the process is expensive, right? It is extremely expensive. You're going to spend a lot of time learning and finding ways to create things that people want, right? It's going to require money. It's going to take money to do these ventures. And you're going to make big sacrifices. Like I remember, you have to ask yourself, and if you're thinking about getting into something, and if you're a creative, people are going to tell you what you're doing doesn't make sense, right? Naturally. They're going to tell you that you are wasting time. I look at cases. Like I look at musicians, man. Like how many years ago? I remember when I was growing up in high school. Anyone who sang, people were saying this person they don't have no idea what to do with their life. Like you felt like you were in Shona Rome, right?
Yeah.
But I look and say, I look at guys like ladies like Janet Manyoa, people like Ja Praiser, and I'm saying these guys had to go hard miles, right? I know Janet is probably a CA as well. So she had to take a formal job, and the formal job takes care of the family while she pursues the dream of music, right? But look at the sound look at how she is transforming the way we worship and praise and, connecting generations with their music now. If you sat down with them, with the Manyoa family, they will tell you that they've spent a lot of time. It's expensive to get to where they are. Right? Yeah. They didn't wake up and just have this glorious, can afford to buy nice cars and all these things. The process is expensive. So decide for yourself, what that cost is going to be for you, how important it is for you to start this business, how important it is for people to watch, get your movie, read your books. Decide now and make a commitment that you are going to foot that cost. For me, part of that cost was we had to move cities and live with our in-laws for a year and some change, right? So if you're from the Shona culture, you know that that's taboo. But for me, that's how important it was to start and see this venture come through. All right. So it's an expensive process, and there are no guarantees for success. Okay. So I know a lot of people, like I've had lots of arguments with some of my mates or some of the people who I've worked with, because they believe that if I work hard, I deserve to succeed, right? there's this whole notion that if I work hard, I deserve to. Look, the market does not reward you according to how many hours you've worked. We don't care about that, right? What we reward you for is value. If you deliver value, it doesn't matter if you've been doing this for 10 years, for 5 minutes. The market will reward you, and the way the market rewards you is by willing to pay a price that you are happy with.
Yeah.
So understand that there are no guarantees to success, right? And you must work to deliver value. Whatever you're doing, ask yourself, what is the underlying value? What am I bringing to the market that the market may want? Okay? Because if you, and we do these financial literacy courses, and one of the secrets to wealth is you must find a way to do what you're doing better than anyone else is doing in your current market, and do that consistently. If you can find a way to serve people better than anyone else is serving, then you get to a point where people appreciate you enough to probably pay or talk about what you're doing, all right? So that's where you want to get to. So that's why if your aim is to only make money, you're not going to survive in this industry, all right? And then on the brighter side is relationships matter. It's easier to retain an existing customer than it is to acquire a new one. So if whatever you do, make sure that the people you're serving, you treat them with the utmost respect, integrity, and understand that they are there. You are there for them, right? You are not doing them any favor. They are paying you, right? Even if you're volunteering, you are there for them. And the more value the more you invest in the relationship, the better. Because you see, what happens is when you serve a particular group well, they sneeze about what you're doing, right? So it's not enough to just build relationships. You must also deliver it properly. So meets the customer's expectation. If you are providing, if you are a painter, if I ask you to do a portrait of my family, do it properly and make sure it looks like my family, or if it's going to be an artistic depiction, make sure it's something that I like, right? I'm going to like, and do it consistently, not have today Terence sends someone and then you do an amazing work for me, and then I send a Eugene and then you do a shoddy job for Eugene. Make sure it's proper. You set the standard, because when you set the standard, I'm going to refer people, and the person is happy with the service. They're going to refer, and repeat business is how we grow, folks. Right? So if you're a musician, ask yourself, how did you treat the last advertising gig you got? Were you snobby? Were you entitled? Because people talk. They don't talk about, oh yeah, your song is amazing. They will always talk about how you made them feel. Man, this guy made us feel like we were $1 million. He made us feel like we were the most important thing for him at that point in time. Don't show up with your cell phone and try and feel like you're being self-important. We will like your song, but we won't use you tomorrow. We'll go and look for the second or third best song, because at the end of the day, we are investing in relationship, and we want someone who we like and who we think our customers are going to like, right? And then the other thing is innovate or go home. The hot thing right now is innovation, right? People are looking for new and improved, and they're always asking themselves, how can things be done better? So you should be looking at your industry and saying, what can I do about, what can I innovate? What can I introduce? What can I change? How can I bend the curve in my space? Because that is where the true value is, right? People are like, brand loyalty is at an all-time low right now. People are always looking at, okay, how do I deliver this in a different way? Right? How do I tell stories? Like I love the work you guys do in the comic space and how you guys are telling stories, local stories in the comic arena. But I'm asking myself, man, how many companies have thought about having a comic strip on their wall? How many companies have said, let's tell our company story, how we came to be in the form of a comic?
Yeah.
And you know, that can be something we can show to, like, how does that relate to the Gen Zs and our teenagers? It can be fun, right? To read it. Yeah. Tell your boring story in a fun way. You make it fun, right? So a lot of us, and I see this a lot in tech entrepreneurs, and I don't know if Eugene, you guys get it in your creative industry, but a lot of people tend to focus on the technical aspect of what they're doing. Yeah. Can you see I'm using the 3D, you know, I'm using the 3D printer. I'm using the drone with this, it's an X, what, all this English, right? Yeah. But we don't care about the English. What impact are you delivering? Because all that technology must solve a problem. It must have you focus on the impact. How is it going to impact delivery? How is it going to impact my customer's journey and experience? When you get that, when you get that, everything we're doing is around solving a problem or wanting to serve our people, then you've got something. That's when you harnessing innovation is there to help us serve a very simple need. So ask yourself, in all you're doing, what is the simple need that you want to serve, and how can you innovate your way? Because innovation now is what's allowing us to is removing the big and small guy. Because now you can compete with the largest film company, you compete with the largest musician, because you can record your music on YouTube, and you record a video, throw it on YouTube, and people immediately get access to you, right?
Yeah.
So the last thing I want to talk about on this, the hard truth is, always focus on the return on investment. Okay? Don't look at how much it's costing you. Understand how much it's going to cost you to develop, start the business, that kind of thing. But focus on what you're going to earn. Okay? No one wants, if I told you, Eugene, that, hey, can you give me $100 and in a month I'm going to give you back 80, would you give me?
No.
Right? No way, right? That's crazy, right? So always ask yourself, how much is it going to earn me, right? So no one wants, if I've got a headache, no one wants, and then you go on and develop a $100 painkiller. Man, I'm going to keep my headache. That's too expensive, right? So understand, what is it? Focus on the return on investment. How much are you going to earn, and how much are you going to get to keep? Because when you get that, when you understand that, now in whichever field you're in, you can creatively begin to build something that lasts, that's sustainable, right? So I want to share one of the quotes from a guy I was fortunate to meet, to sit down with in Charlotte, and his name is Chris Elmore, and he's built a unicorn that does a boring thing like how it's his automated payments or the payment process. Mm-hmm. And he told me something that was so profound, and he says, entrepreneurs are not risk takers, right? They are geniuses in managing uncertainty. All right. So we've got this view that if you're going to start a business, if you're going to, it's risky. I'm just going to take a risk. I'm just going to bet the farm. That's what stupid people do, right? That's what frustrated people do. That's how you get stressed.
Yeah.
Understand what you are facing, and really ask yourself, what uncertainties are out there that I need to navigate and overcome? So there are a couple of questions that I want us to go through that will help us begin to understand what is required to get through this process. Okay, so there's a list of questions that I want. Don't tell, if you are creative and you want to start a venture, or you want to start doing it, before you take a single cent out of your pocket, I don't even want you to tell your girlfriend, your wife, your pastor, before you even go that far. You need to answer these 5 questions, right? If you can answer these 5 questions well, you are well on your way to some level of success. And this, even if you can answer these 5 questions and you're going to look for funding, you can look for funding and be in a fairly good space to get it, if you can answer these questions, all right? Right, so you ready? So those are the 5 questions. We're going to start with the first one. But before we go there, there's a guy I met called Louis Foreman, and he said this, and I hope it doesn't upset folks, because hopefully I'll explain it later. And he says, every idea you have, right? Every idea you think you might have, we don't need it, right? We don't need it. And this is why, because we in 2020, Eugene, we don't have your idea. We don't have your new single. We don't have your piece of artwork. We don't have your craft, but we still living, homie, right?
Yeah.
We still living. A way to get by, right? So if you think the world needs your idea, and I say this to everyone who says I can't share my idea, people will steal it. We don't need it. So we don't need it. But this is and Louise told me this in this way. We don't need it because all our basic needs have been solved already, or are being solved in some shape or form. But there is a future where we may want it. So understand that we may not need it, but we may want it. Okay? Yeah. We may want it. So that doesn't mean, so don't throw away your idea because we may want it, right? Especially if you execute it. Yeah. So let's go to the first one. So the first thing you want to really be clear on is, what is your product or the service you're bringing to the table? So what is it exactly that I am bringing to the market, right? Be very clear on that, because if you don't know that, don't do it, right? So you want to erase the word need from your vocabulary. No one needs it. And then now what you now need to understand is clearly what would make my customers want what I'm doing, okay? What would make them say, okay, no, I'm going to take this. I'm going to use Terrence, right? Or I'm going to watch Terrence's YouTube channel. What would make them want to do that? So we, like in our entrepreneurship space, we usually talk about what is the secret sauce? What makes you unique?
Yeah.
What makes people want to turn their heads and look to you as an authority, right? So if you're a creative, what have you done to create creatively and credibly position yourself as the authority in your space? Okay, what hard miles have you put in that make you the unique person, right? How does what you're doing differ from what's already in the market, right? Because there are people in the market already. So when you're coming in, you need to know that you've got the uphill journey of proving yourself different or proving yourself better and better enough that I will move from the brand that I'm currently using to you, okay? And the third thing is, what is your value proposition? Be very clear in your mind that, what are people really purchasing, okay?
Yeah.
I like paintings or paintings because, you have to, if you're a painter, you need to say, look, the portraits I'm delivering, I have a cousin of mine called Thomas Masangwale. And he's got this thing that he's really he's differentiated himself out in South Africa because he's got a reputation of filming himself while he paints. And whenever a celebrity passes away, he does a painting of them. So he films himself painting them. So when Tuku passed away, he did it and they featured him in the newspaper, right? And he's built a brand, he's differentiated himself from the market because of that. So he now gets contracts from people who are saying, can you do portraits for my family? Can you come and do company? Can you do this? Because they've seen him and he's stood out from the crowd because he's done something that no one else had thought to do at the time. So you need to understand I come back to value proposition is, what am I really purchasing? When you doing that jewelry, is your jewelry brand an aspirational one? Is your brand one that I say you want people who desire to be viewed as if they've made it? Those are the ones who are going to purchase it. Is it something that makes people feel good about themselves? So, what are you about? Are you about making people, empowering people? Is your storytelling about telling stories of overcoming? I love Takura's songs because every time I listen to his songs, it's always reminding me that Wakapenga Wakadaru, right? So I will listen to his songs and resonate with him because he makes me feel good and reminds me of the power that's within, right? Yeah. Within me. Are you the guys who are doing things on a cost? Is my value proposition a cost benefit? Right? Is it going to cost less, but give me the same satisfaction? Are you tapping into the environmentally friendly movement? So understand the value proposition. What am I really purchasing? What story is your brand or your service, your product telling? If you can figure that out, you've got through the first question, right? The second thing is, who is your customer? You must know your customer, all right? And at this particular point, Eugene, your customer is not everyone, all right? So the two things you must never use is, people need my product and my customer is everyone, because everyone is not your customer, right?
That's
so
right. Yeah.
You must. So what you want to know is, and take the time to understand, what is the average age of the person that I'm gonna appeal to, right? That I think is gonna be interested in what I'm doing. What is their income level? So what kind of money do they earn? And because if you know the income level, you sort of can begin to understand what is a reasonable price that they'll be willing to pay. What is the education level? Because it's going to determine the level in which you're going to communicate with them and what communication channels work for them, right? And how they think. So you get what I'm saying? So people, that's how, if you can understand the education level of your target clientele, great. Then you want to know, where do they stay? Where do I find them? All right? Your geography. It pains me so much, and I see this in the arts and crafts industry, that you find the guys who they build these amazing arts and crafts, then they go and position themselves in the worst locations, right? Like, why would you put yourself, there's certain shopping malls, or you then go and put yourself, let me not say where, but wrong location, let's leave it there. But Eugene, it's beautiful stuff, but you position yourself in a place where the people who are passing by, they look at it and say, yeah, I know my Kulu in the Kumushas can do this, but they don't appreciate the art. So they're never going to be willing to pay you the price that you need to be paid. So I believe some of these guys who are doing arts and crafts should be focusing more on export markets, where what they're doing is something novel, it's something different, right? Where you can come and say, oh, wow. Or they should be positioning themselves to communities that appreciate art, right? So you know, that kind of thing. Like I was watching Top Billing and I saw these guys who found a way to, they're doing Debele jewelry, but they're now using it to do light fixtures and home furniture. And the houses that they're putting them in are not the cheap ones, Eugene. They're not the cheap ones. They're the wealthy ones. That person, that designer knows their market and they know the geography. So stop building with a local mindset. If you're in arts and crafts, think international because your market is international. You should be spending time understanding how can I create value chains that allow me to get my stuff to South Africa, Kenya, New York, you know, all these wonderful places. That's where your time should be spent. So who is your customer? And when you've got this pool of information together, it allows you to quantify your customer and even quantify the size of your market. So you now know, hey, this work that I'm doing, this is $1 million market. Is it really worth it? Or it's a $50 market or a $100 market. So maybe let me stick to my day job and not do this, right? And the next thing you want to know is the third question I want you to answer is, how will your customer react? All right? How will they react to the stuff that you are doing? And the reason why this is important to know is it will help you determine whether people want what you're doing or not, whether people like it, right? So you want to go out to them and you almost do surveys with them. And the whole point, and you don't have to tell them what you're doing, but what you're in essence saying is, hey, for this problem that you have, what are you currently using? What is the product? Who's your current designer? Who's your current, who's currently doing your production? Who's currently, right? What are they doing, right? What pain points do you have? What dissatisfies you about this particular person? And if there was an alternative out there, would you be interested in exploring that alternative, right? Okay. And by the way, who makes the purchasing decision in your organization? Because I think sometimes when we go and have these meetings, we talk to the wrong person. We talk to the person who doesn't make the decision. Who you should be looking for, who makes the purchasing decision, because that's the person you need to convince, right? You want to find out, so what drives your purchasing decision? Are you looking for someone aspirational brands? Are you a cost-sensitive organization? Are you looking, you know, the stuff we talked about a few seconds ago. So you understand what goes into the customer's psyche when they're looking at what you're about to bring to them, right? And where do they like to purchase it? Do they want to purchase their stuff online? Do they want to walk into a physical store? Do they, you know, understand where do they want to purchase so that you know, is my business a storefront? Is my business an exhibition type of business? Is my business a fair kind of business? Or is my, you know, those kinds. So it positions, it lets you know where you need to be for your maximum impact. And the next thing is, so if I were to come with this alternative, how much would you be willing to pay? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how beautiful and how attractive and how world-class what you're doing is. What matters is how much are people willing to pay, because that's where the money comes from, right? You can have this amazing product that no one is able to afford or willing to pay, and you're just as bad as Terence who's got nothing, right? And then the other thing that sort of helps you determine this term called customer lifetime value, which is how often are you willing to purchase what I'm doing? All right. So if you manufacture, if you're into, for example, producing wedding dresses, you got to know that your customer is probably going to come once, right? Unless if they're celebrities, they'll come 3 or 4 times with divorces and all those things. But by and large, if you're in that space, you know that my customer journey with this person is not long. So they'll buy once, and probably when their kids are ready or their friends, so it's a referral. So understand how often they're going to purchase what you're doing. And if it's lowly priced and you need repeat purchases, now you know, right? And how you can do this is you can do surveys, for instance, online surveys. Like I know they've got SurveyMonkey and all these wonderful things that are out there, right? You can do these forms that you have people fill in. You can do paper surveys if you don't have access to the internet. You can go on these online bulletin boards, for instance. Great. So the next thing is, how do we do this? How do you get that information from your customers so that you get to know how they would potentially react before you go out and start selling your product or creating whatever you create, right? And a couple of ways to do that is the first being online surveys. I think there's a lot of stuff that's out there that we can use now, that SurveyMonkey, lots of these free resources that are out there that you can use and just get a couple of emails and shoot it out and just sort of find out how people are reacting. If you don't have access to the internet, there's paper surveys where you can just write it out and just let ask people and just, the same things that we're talking about just a few seconds ago. They're online bulletin boards where you've got these community groups that talk about the stuff that they need. So you could almost immediately see where their pain points are, because people keep asking, does anyone do this? Does anyone do that? So I see it in Facebook groups, right? Does anyone know, or WhatsApp groups, does anyone know anyone who does this? And bit by bit, you can sort of collate that data set and see whether or not you've got a big enough market to start. There's face-to-face or focus groups, right, where you can get people in a room and sort of show them what you're thinking about doing and hear what they have to say. Or if you've got the resources, do one-on-one interviews, so you get sort of like an insight on, from the persona that you think you want to serve, what goes through their mind when they're making a decision. So you really want to know how your customer reacts, because that's going to let you sort of know whether or not you're on the right track before you start. And then the fourth question that you definitely want to be able to answer is, how much money is it going to take, right? So a lot of businesses fail, right? Get this. A lot of businesses fail because they run out of fuel. They run out of money, right?
Yeah.
Amazing idea. You've got this amazing creation, and then you just don't have enough to see through, right? Oh man, I'm about to fire a shot at NUST, but look at NUST University, homie. Like, they had an amazing campus in mind, but I don't think required to finish the campus. So you've got cranes there till now. And that's just an example, a continual reminder for me that whenever I want to do a venture, I look at that university, the building, and say, amazing architecture for the stuff that's been completed. But what wasn't completed tells me that they didn't really take enough time to think about the process of building, so that they would build complete and make sure that they don't run out of money before they build probably what would have been the most beautiful and well-built university in Africa. All right, they're still a good-looking university though. So the first step you want to do is do what we call a business model canvas. It's an amazing tool because it's 1 or 2 pages, right? So it allows you to think through your business and look at the different aspects that need to go into your business. So right from revenue streams or the costs that are going to be incurred in that. So it's going to allow you to then move into the second step, which is compiling a startup budget. So what are those costs that you need to cover for you to launch, right? So you need to sit down, understand what those costs are. Are there any compliance? Are there any councils that you need to sign up to before you start? Are there any, what costs do you need to incur? Be very clear on that, and that becomes your starting ground. And then after you've done that, you need to then create what we call a financial feasibility assessment model. So I know I've spoken a whole lot of that's for a lot of us, you're probably saying, say what? It's right. Yeah. So what we've done, and with the help of a friend of mine called Jessica Federley, who's a CFA American, we were watching this show called Simba Savannah, and we kept seeing that entrepreneurs, whenever we got to the numbers, guys choked, right? They did not know what's amazing and everything else except the numbers. So me and her sort of teamed up and said, how could we create something that helps more and more entrepreneurs understand their numbers, or be able to tell the story of their business with numbers and not have to be accountants or complex number people. So we built what we call this financial feasibility model that allows you to now say, okay, I'm going to need to employ X number of guys. I'm going to need to get these props. So those startup costs, you throw them in, and what the model does for you, it tells you whether or not what you're currently thinking is going to be viable. Is it going to make a profit, right? How much it breaks down your costs. It lets you know what you're likely to pay in taxes and that sort of thing. So it almost becomes a go or no go marker for you. So you know, if the way I'm thinking now, if this is where I think my money is going to come from, and these are the costs I need to cover. If I'm not making a profit, maybe let me rethink it. Maybe I need to think about more revenue streams, right? Because I think one of the things that kills us, not just as creatives, but as business people in Zimbabwe and world over, is we don't think about multiple revenue streams when you look at our business. If I'm a musician, I think my job is to do albums and shows, right? But there's a whole host of opportunities out there. We've seen others go into movies, ads. Others are now doing, even your documentaries, and there's a whole host of businesses that you could be getting into, which represent multiple income streams, right? That you can put into your business and allow you to be a bit more feasible. So if guys want access to that tool, shout out, it's a free tool. We don't make anyone pay for that. And we can definitely make it available to anyone who's attending this particular conference, right? And then the last question you want to sort of figure out is where will the money come from, right? So, it's all nice and dandy that you've answered all these questions, but if you don't have the chelator, it may be different. It's just dead in the water, right? So this is where you really need to be creative, right? So for me, when I was starting my business, my friends and my family were the first people I hit up. You need to. Those are the first guys you hit up, right? So your friends, your family, get them to support the best they can, right? And if it's not enough, there's also a group called angel investors, who are people who have tons of money or a bit of money, and they are looking to earn a return on their money that's better than what they're getting with their bank or what they would normally get from the stock markets, right? So only go to them if you know that what you're doing is going to generate a return from them, okay? And I think if you're in the arts space, another source of funding is arts councils, right? So I have a friend of mine who happens to work at the British Council, and she's always sending on groups opportunities for funding. We're looking for young filmmakers. We've got grants for this, grants for that. Tap into that network if the work that you're doing resonates with what they're doing. So you obviously have to understand that they've got an agenda that they're pushing. They've got objectives. They have things that they want met. So you need to have some sort of alignment if you want to go into that. And I think there's a body of funds that are now emerging that are looking at how they can fund creative ventures, right? So I remember there's a season where Zambezi TV was looking for content, right? I know Netflix is now a content creation company, so they'll be looking for guys who can create content that they can share on their platform. So those are some of the places where you can also begin to look at if you feel as if you're working on something that is good enough that it would make the international or national stage. So you want to tap into that. And then the other bit is banks. But we all know banks are a tough nut to crack, right? Because all banks, and say it with me, want collateral, right? They want collateral. And if millennial and Gen Z, man, it's taken me a minute to own a house, man. So we started a business, and whenever you sat there, and they're like, "Oh, your business is nice. Do you have collateral?" And I was like, look, man, where am I supposed to get? I live in Zimbabwe. Where am I supposed to get a house, man? If I had collateral, I would not be in this room right now. So understand that that's the limitation, right? And you got to understand, banks are not there to just to give you funding. They're there to give you liquidity. All right. So they ask you for collateral. They're actually giving you money you already have, because when you put that asset there, it's because that asset can be sold and it's for money. So they're giving you what you already have. So be very clear on that. Unless if you get banks who are willing to give you unsecured facilities, but remember, loans need to be paid back. All right. Yeah. Understand that, right? And then there's a group, and I only recommend this if you know what you're doing is a home run. You know it's a game changer. It's going to bring back an amazing return. Then go and sit down with venture capitalists and private equity firms, because those guys have a ton of money and they're willing to invest a ton of money. But get this, they'll invest millions, but they'll expect hundreds of millions back from you. So know that it's going to be high pressure, and only go there when you know that you've got a home run. Don't go there if you know that your product, what you're doing may not really hit the mark. And especially if you're also one of those people who want to keep ownership of what they're doing, because these guys grow to sell, right? So if you're growing and you wanted to pass it to your kids and all these things, find out the means, right? And then this amazing, I think over the last decade or so, crowdfunding has really taken center stage, right? So this is an amazing place for people who are producing. So if you're a creative that actually produces something that's tangible, that people can touch, or you've got an application that people want, can use, this is a good space for you, right? Because what it allows you to do is it allows you to pre-sell. So people pre-buy what you want to bring to the market, and it gives you the funding you need to start and produce the product for a customer. So it allows you to get funding, and even whilst in the process of getting funding, you also then are able to earn revenue for the business and sustain it. So I know in Zim we've got some platforms that are coming up, and I think it's an emerging sort of industry. And I hope that, I think we just need to clean up the fees, we just need to clean up the regulatory side so that it works well for everyone, because you want a bit of regulation in there so people are not abused and and we get maximum value, right? So understand where the money is going to come from, and once you've got an understanding of where your money, go get it. Like the next thing is go get it, right? Implement it, and spend more time and on understanding that, looking at the value you bring to the table, not what it's costing you, right? And I just put it out there that I don't think all of us were made to be entrepreneurs. All of us have great ideas, can implement those great ideas, but I think at times it's important for you to ask yourself, do I really want to get into business? Or can I find someone who I can license what I'm doing, right? I can give them what I'm producing and have them do the marketing, have them do the production, have them do everything else, and all I get is a royalty. So look at that as an option as a creative, that can I find organizations or entities that are willing to take my paint work and do all the marketing on my behalf, do all the business development on my behalf, and all I do is get a piece of the action. It is totally fine, guys. You don't need to own things. We've got this obsession with owning stuff. I'd rather be wealthy and own 5% of $1 billion industry than own 100% of a $50 industry. So be clear on that, right? Because what you want, the journey is about, changing stuff, accomplishing the recognition. All that comes when you can answer these questions and then go out and do them, right? So the other thing I wanted to chat about is when the pitching, right? Getting your idea out there so that people can know what you're doing and want to be invested in it. So for the number of years that we've been doing pitch nights, it's really come to me that it's really, when you talk about pitching, it's the art, it's storytelling. And I think if you're a creative, this should come natural to you, right? If you're a creative and you can't tell story, you're not a creative, right? Sure. Or you've conform to the narrative of this world, right? The narrative of you need to do business in this way, or you're listening to the wrong people. You have a story that you need to tell, and your pitch should tell that story. But your story should be guided, all right? Because you only have a limited amount of time. If you can't explain to me what you are doing in one sentence, then you don't know what you're doing, okay? Because sometimes all you have is one sentence. And if that one sentence is exciting enough, I'm going to say, so tell me more. And then you've got hours and hours of my time and potentially thousands and millions upon millions of my money in your venture. So it's about getting to a point where you tell your story to the right audience in the right way to engage and inspire them to become interested. You don't close the deal on the pitch. You gain substantial enough interest that they will want to then say, let's get into the numbers, let's get into the business, deeper into the business. So what I believe every pitch should do, and we use this Kaufman storytelling technique at Pitch Night, is you must be very clear on what problem you are solving, right? Or what you've observed. Then move into what you've observed has pushed you to come up with a solution. Then explain how that solution works, right? How does that solution go on to solve the problem and serve your clients? And then what everyone likes is, what traction have you made? So what progress, right? No one likes someone who just comes and shares an idea. When we ask you, so what have you done? Nothing. I'm waiting for money. Get away. Please get away. All right? It irritates me so much.
You don't need an idea.
When they've got a great idea, and then you get to the traction place and you say, what traction have you made? And say, no, I've made no traction because you see, basically, we don't have funding. Ah, snap, man. You've just thrown out any credibility. Investors and anyone who wants to support your idea wants to see that you've got skin in the game. If you don't have money, at least show me you've taken a walk to talk to your clients, or at least found out how big the market is. Do something. Don't tell me you don't have funding. It doesn't require funding to ask someone whether or not they drink water or not, right? All you need is to talk, right? And then the next thing, and if you remember some of those questions, is you want to be very clear on who your target market is. You cannot have a product that helps everyone, right? You have to understand who your target market is, and if by understanding who your target market is, you also have to then be able to explain how big the market is that you want to serve. Because investors want to know that, okay, you understand who you're serving, great, but how much money can we potentially make in this space to make it worth our while to invest? And then the sixth thing you want to be very clear on is why you? Because that's the question everyone's going to ask. Okay, I hear this, I see the problem, I see the opportunity, I see the solution, but why should we use you? You must be very clear on what makes you different. What gives you that competitive edge that makes you the person people need to be dealing with. All right. The seventh thing, which I feel a lot of creatives fail on, and just not even creatives, man, just a lot of us we fail on, is proving financial sustainability, showing to people how this thing is going to make money, and showing to them that it's going to make more money than it actually costs to deliver the service. All right, like we said, you would never give me $100 if I was going to give you 80 bucks back, right? And then the eighth thing you want to have in your pitch is who is the team? No one likes the single team entrepreneur. You are too risky.
Yeah.
You are pitching and they ask you, so who's your team? And you say, no, it's just me for now. You are wasting people's time. And to be honest with you, there's no way you're going to create a business that's worth funding just by yourself. You may start it by yourself, but you'll never grow it by yourself. And at some point in time, you've got friends who can help you along the way. Have them on the team and just put it there that they help me part-time. They will move out of the business or they'll move out of the venture the moment we create enough funding or traction that I can employ more permanent people. All right. So there is no self-made millionaire, so to speak. And then the most important thing you want to have in your pitch is, what do you want? What do you want from me? How can the people in the room help? And you need to be very clear on that. So if you're going to say, I need 10,000, be very clear on how that 10,000 is going to be used. Because if you're just going to say, I need 10,000, then we ask you like, mdara, you know what the answer is going to be. And then the final thing is, you want to give people as many options as possible on how they can get in touch with you, right? So remember when we said, where do people want to buy your products or make use of the service? You also need to be very clear is, where are your people? Where is your target market resident? Where do they go to eat? Where do they communicate the most? Which channels do they use? And have a presence in each of those channels so that they can get in touch with you from any space. All right. So if this is the bit that I have to share with you, and really, all I can say is, guys, the journey is difficult, failure is inevitable, but the joy of success is out of this world, and particularly for Zimbabweans, and I hope this comes out the right way. I believe as Zimbabweans, we have been given this amazing intellect, this amazing ability to hustle and keep looking and finding a way to survive in the most difficult of situations. We have a resilience that I think we should package and sell. So understand that what is working for you is much more than what is working against you. The trouble that we face right now is actually working to mold us to become better. So stop thinking about doing stuff and do it, right? Because as a Zimbabwean, I believe that we are built for success. We may not know it yet. It may not seem like it when you go outside, but there's something that I believe, and I'm a man of faith, that God has put in us in Zimbabweans that just makes us look at how Zimbabweans outside our borders are changing industries, right? Yes. And we've got people we've got actresses that are in shows that are changing the culture around superhero movies, right?
Yes.
We've got Zimbabweans out there doing amazing things, heading huge corporations, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so if you're thinking you're not worth it, I'm here to tell you, man, it's your time. You can do this. That idea you have, the world, I'm gonna break my law. If you're Zimbabwean, they need it. If you're Zimbabwean and in Zimbabwe, we need you to stand up and be counted more than you think. And I want to close with a quote from one of my favorite people, and it's a guy called Sir John Templeton. And he just says in simple words, trouble is opportunity. Trouble is opportunity. Thanks a lot, Eugene.
Wow, that was incredible. I had so many questions. Well, I thought I had many questions on how to mitigate risk and what kind of investment opportunities out there. But your presentation was so broad that you pretty much answered my questions before I could ask them, and that's incredible.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, and I don't have to ask you for your details because you also conveniently put those in the last slide.
You make it easy for people to reach out to you, man. And if you guys and Eugene and Keith, I usually don't do this, but if you guys want this presentation and want to share it to everyone who's tuning in to Converge, the conference, I can make that available to you.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
that would be great. I think we've got about 5 minutes before we need to wrap this up and prepare for the next session. So I think, yeah, Eugene, you can ask questions around, I think you wanted to talk about the available opportunities for creators who want to become professional. The educational ones. And then we can wrap it up in about 5 minutes.
All right, great. Okay, so Terence, yeah, like amongst the remaining questions that I have, I wanted to find out what is the landscape looking like for education funding opportunities for aspiring creative professionals?
Yeah, interesting.
So what are the funding opportunities? Yeah.
Opportunities that are there, right? So if in Zimbabwe with our inflation, you sort of understand that getting access to funding is a nightmare right now. But I think in terms of just you've got access to a couple of things. So I can speak to some of the stuff we're doing. So you've got access to loans, right? Which are essentially more or less pay as you go type of loans that you can access when you get a place at a university. Like if you work with Educate, if we partner with that university or college or Technicon, we can help you get access to funding, right? And there are quite a few unsecured facilities that are available out there. So I know of Educate, I know EduLoan is there in the education space. There's a new venture, I think an online platform called eShagi that seems like it's allowing people to get access to loans, but I think you need to have a backer who's earning something for you to be able to do that. To be able to get that. I think there are also a number of scholarships that are being put out there. I think for women particularly, I know there are quite a few women opportunities that are there. And if you look at some universities, they are looking to attract people to certain professions, and I think the creative arts are falling within that domain. And certain universities are even offering scholarship opportunities. So really take time to look at, spend time on universities' websites. I know that there's one that I'm fortunate that one of my sister-in-law is into fashion, and she got a partial scholarship for, I think it's from Lincoln University and out in Botswana. And that's the thing is if you know who you are and how creative you are, understand that you have value. So don't be afraid to negotiate. Ask for funding or ask for a reduction in the fees. Because what you want to do is, and maybe I didn't speak about it, is there's this concept of shared value. Understand what that person wants. So understand what universities, education institutions want. Then go there with a proposal that shows them how to get there. So if you've got we live in a world of social media. If you've got a YouTube following for days, you could easily go to an institution and say, guys, if you guys let me in here, can you guys see my 10 million followers? That's advertising. I'm going to give you advertising space for you, and you guys are going to let me study for free. So understand the power. You don't even need money anymore these days. Just your following and just being able to create that it opens up another funding opportunity for you. So if you can do that, that's going to be great for you. And I think we live in a world where social media is making things so much easier. So I'm even of the view that there are lots of these free online courses. I think Coursera, Udemy, a couple of, I think the British Council has some. I think there are a lot of these free courses that are online that, in my view, do those. If you exclusively just invested in those courses, I think you would probably be better than a university graduate, especially in the creative space. Right? So I think let's begin to reimagine school and education and understand that if funding is a problem for you, maybe you don't need to be to get a university degree, but you can definitely get some of these online courses and spend a bit of time and spend a bit of time learning from the professionals, volunteering with people who you admire and who are doing certain things. And I know there's a guy called Daniel Lassica. He's done that, right? So he's gone out, he's producing some amazing films, and he's just gone out there and he's producing and learning, creating a brand for himself, making himself attractive to brands, and then, you know, creating more and more opportunities for himself. I think he's won a couple of awards already, and he's from Blayo stand up, right? So yeah, so I think the funding opportunities are, the scholarships, have a look at them. There's the loan routes, and I think you can begin to negotiate with these institutions by showing them shared value, you know, letting them know that they can, because I think all these institutions, you know, are in it to then be able to, at the end of each year, say, look at our graduate, look at our alumni, how great they are, how good our services are. So if you understand the greater cause or the grander vision of these institutions, you can use that to your advantage, and it works for you.
Wow. So I'm not gonna ask this one question I have over here, because I feel like your entire presentation covered it. It was about how to attract more funding to the creative sector, but I think you exhausted that. So I'll ask this one in closing, which is, what goes into a winning pitch for funding? What goes into a winning pitch?
So it's the power of story, man. So I think if I was to put it into one sentence, I'd say shared value. If you can communicate the shared value of working together with anyone or whatever you're producing, then you've got something. Because shared value requires you to understand what the next person wants, what the next person desires. So you make the pitch about them, not you. And if you can speak to things that I am interested in, that relate to me and that will energize me, then you've got yourself a winning pitch. I think it's weird how we will go around and talk about this interesting business concept, but it all comes back to service, right? If you can find, like, you know how Jesus says, if you want to be the greatest amongst everyone, you must be the server of all the least, right? So you must serve them also. You must find a way to show people that you found the winning elixir to serve people more than anyone else, and you won't struggle a day in your life, or you'll struggle until you don't struggle anymore.
Wow, Terrence, it's been absolutely awesome. This has been like a wealth of information. Thank you very much for joining us. Anyone who's just joined us, we've been talking to Terrence Mugoa. He's an entrepreneur amongst many other things. We're going to have his presentation available to share with anyone who's interested in taking a look at it in their own time. Thank you very much, Terrence Mugoa, for joining us for Emerge and Converge 2020. So to the rest of the people, so to the rest of our audience who's still interested in watching more videos, please remember to check out the upcoming videos on this platform. We've got plenty more to offer. But for today, I'm signing out.